Hey guys, okay, we're going to do the video for 5-9, solving quadratics by factoring when a is equal to 1. Okay, so a couple things I want to discuss what solving quadratics means. Solving quadratics is also the same thing as finding the x-intercepts, the same thing as finding the roots, the solutions. That's all the same stuff. Okay, so in essence, when we factor a quadratic, we we're actually finding the x-intercept, so where it crosses the x-axis. Okay, so it's an important connection to make here. All right, let's take a look at the first of 4 examples. They're a little bit out of order, so then they make a little bit more sense. Okay, so the first one here. Alrighty. So we got x squared equals negative 42 minus 13x. As soon as I see an x squared, I need to recognize that it needs to be set equal to 0. Now, I cannot factor if this x squared is not positive. Factoring requires that this x squared is positive. So if you have a negative x squared, you have to maneuver, or you have to take out a GCF of -1, just figure out something that makes that x squared positive. So now I'm going to add 42 and add 13x to both sides so that I can make this equal to 0. So I have x squared plus 13x plus 42 equals 0. Now I have to figure out what multiplies to 42 and adds to 13. I don't know what that is off the top of my head, so I'm going to write off the factors of 42. 1 and 42, 2 and 21, 3, let's see what 3 is. I could use my calculator for this. 42 divided by 3 is 14. 4, will that work? Let's take a look. 14 divided by 4 does not work. 5 we know does not work. 6, and so 42 divided by 6 and 7. Then if I go to 7, I get 6. So notice how I repeated here. So that means I'm done finding all my factors. Okay, 1 and 42 will multiply to 42, but won't add to 13. 2 and 21 will multiply to 42, but will not add up to 13. 3 and 14 will multiply to 42, but will not add up to 13. 4 or 5 doesn't work. 6 and 7. 6 times 7 is 42, and will add up to 13, so that's the one I'm going to use. So now I'm going to set up my double bubble. I got x plus 7. And x plus 6. I kept that positive because it needs to add to a positive 13 and multiply to a positive 42. All right, so just keep that in mind. That's how I'm figuring out what the signs are. Now I'm going to say x plus 7 equals 0. X plus 6 equals 0. I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. That's one solution. There's the other. Okay? This is the solutions, or the x-intercepts, or the roots. It is where the parabola, the parabolic graph, or the quadratic graph will cross the x-axis. All right, next. This one, if we look back at this example here, let's see if I can kind of do this. It's a little awkward. Trying to get them both in the camera. So if we look here, this is factored form. Okay? That's factored form already. So all I need to do is just solve it. Your inclination when you see this is to kind of multiply them together because that's what we do with it. But that's what we need to do here. We just need to solve them. So plus 4. So x equals 4. There's that. X minus 1 equals 0. Plus 1, x equals 1. And there's that one. Okay, next. So the reason why on the first example I made such a big deal about x squared being positive is because of this one here. Let me make sure you guys can see it. Okay. Notice I got this negative x squared. Okay, I can't factor that way. So in other words, I can't bring this 13x this way. I have to take this stuff and bring it that way. And that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to add x squared and add 42. So I go plus x squared plus 42. Those cross out. Now, remember we got like terms here, so that's all that can go together. None of this stuff will add together because they're not like terms. So I just have this x squared plus 13x plus 42 equals 0. And now we're back where we were before on the first example. Okay, it's not coincidental that this one and that one factor out the same exact way. What multiplies to 42 and adds to 13? We already know that from the previous example. It was 7 and 6. So x plus 7, x plus 6 equals 0. Now I got x plus 7 equals 0. I subtract 7. X equals negative 7. X plus 6 equals 0. Minus 6 minus 6. X equals negative 6. And there's that one. Okay, let's do the last example. This one's a little bit tricky. So I have to graph this. Let me make sure you guys can see it. Okay, so I have to graph this. And I have to graph it in vertex form here. So let's start, because it's going to take me a minute or two. First, I got to find the vertex. So I have to do negative b over 2a. And I have negative 4 over 2, which gives me negative 2. Then I have to plug that in. So I have negative 2x squared plus 4, negative 2 plus 3. Okay, let's see what I get there. So now I have negative 2, doing this on the calculator, squared plus 4, negative 2 plus 3. And that gives me negative 1. So I have my vertex. My vertex is negative 2, negative 1. Negative 2, negative 1. Okay, I'm going to have to erase that. So if you need to write it down, go for it. Okay. Next, my slope to the first line is 1. I need my x-intercept. Well, at the x-intercept, y equals 0. So I say 0 equals x squared plus 4x plus 3. What multiplies to 3 and adds to 4? That's going to be x, plus 3 and x plus 1. I solve that and I get x equals negative 3 and x equals negative 1. So here's x equals negative 3. Here's x equals negative 1. Okay, next, as I'm about to run out of time here, I have to plug in 0 for x. So I go y equals 0 squared plus 4, 0 plus 3. Well, if I multiply those all out, that's 3. Okay, let's graph this. So I got negative 2, negative 1. Here's that. My vertex is at negative 1 and negative 3. And my y-intercept is at 3. And there we go. There it is, okay? Not the prettiest looking thing in the world, but that's it. Okay, guys, I hope you guys found this video helpful.